There was a whole bunch of people just laughing at me because I'm doing this in my laneway. Hey, I'm Janelle, this is toDIYfor, and I am Zoya the Destroyer. If anybody has watched Glow on Netflix, you know what I'm talking about. This is my first Halloween costume tutorial this year, and by far the most ambitious costume I have ever attempted to do. I don't even know what I was thinking when I got myself into this, but somehow I managed to come out with this, which I am absolutely thrilled with because so many things went wrong when I was doing this DIY, and I don't know, I managed to figure it out, fix it. Hot glue. Hot glue was my savior. Let's get into this DIY. So I found this stretchy metallic material. It's bright, it's flashy, and it's stretchy, which is key. I was not able to find a bodysuit, so that's why I'm actually attempting to make one, which was very ambitious of me. So I've never done this before, but I started by folding it in half and then folding it in half again, making sure all of those pieces are lined up properly. Grab a bodysuit that you already own and you're going to use it as a template. So I folded it in half like so, line that along the fold line, and then I'm using some chalk to trace around it. Now, I was very generous with this. Of course, you need a seam allowance, but also this material just doesn't stretch the same way that that material does. So I was a little worried about that, so I made it extra big. And as you can see, I didn't use the armhole there because we're going to have to add that later on. So I pinned this material all together before I cut it apart so that the fabric wouldn't move on me. But now we have two pieces here. As you can see, this is kind of the idea of our bodysuit. Now, it is a one-sleeved bodysuit, so go from the top of the boob line on one side to the bottom of the armpit line on the other, and that piece is actually just going to get snipped right off. And down the road, I'm going to find out that this is way too low, but we're going to continue on here, and I'm going to show you how to make the arm here. So that is just folded in half once. There is a fold along the top there, and as you can see, this is the way that the fabric needs to stretch. That is necessary. And then I'm just going to lay out the bodysuit here, line up the shoulder with the fold in the fabric there, and it's kind of on an angle, as you can see, and trace around that armhole. So my camera had actually died at that point, but this is what I did after I had it all cut out, and it really looks like a great one-armed bodysuit. So next is just starting to do some of your sewing. I was going to start with all of the hemline, so basically the leg holes, and then also around the top before I stitch the two pieces together. And that's where I ran into a massive problem. I promise you, I tried for about an hour to get my sewing machine to work with this fabric, but I resorted to my glue gun, and I did several tests on the fabric with the glue, and it seemed to be holding, so that's what I am doing here. Again, I'm just doing some of the seams there because this fabric stretches and tears similar to nylon, so this needs to be done, and this is along the top portion of the chest. So once those seams were done, I am going to glue these two pieces together, and you want good sides facing in. I'm gluing along the side that doesn't have the arm on it here, and you got to do this slow because hot glue will dry, so you got to do it kind of in sections if you do it the same way that I did. I also then glued the shoulder piece for where the side that has the shoulder, but don't glue all of it together yet. You need to still be able to open it up for the armhole here, and we're going to line up the arm and the armhole, those two curves there, and overlap them, as you can see I'm doing here, and then glue those two pieces together as best you can. So make sure you glue across the entire armhole. And then we're going to we're going to create the seam along the bottom of the armhole there. So again, that's just gluing that little portion there before you glue it all together. And this outfit is still completely inside out. You're gluing the shiny sides together, and you glue along the entire arm and down the length of the bodysuit as well. So your bodysuit's pretty much done. You just gotta glue the crotch portion together, and that's what I did. I tried it on, and this was way too low, so I needed desperately to put another piece of fabric in there. Like, one boob was popping out low. So I put another piece of fabric in there, and I pinned it together while I was wearing it just so I knew exactly where it needed to be, and then I just carefully glued it together and removed those pins slowly while I was doing that. That fixed it up really well, and it's really not that noticeable. Lastly, we need to create another arm sleeve. This one doesn't actually attach, and again, it's just the exact same way that we created the other arm. I actually used a different shirt because this one was a little bit tighter. The other one I had to make a little bit smaller. So we're going to do the seams on both the top and the bottom, and then you're going to glue this shiny sides in again to create the seam of the arm sleeve, and that just actually hangs out on the arm like part of the way up. So you can flip it inside out, now you have a little arm sleeve. Now there is a neck portion, I guess it's kind of almost like a choker that is a part of her uniform. This piece goes right around my neck, and I made a T shape here so we can connect it to the outfit. Again, I'm just folding in the seams there, and that's actually when I realized I didn't need it to be a T, I needed it to be an L. See, this little flap here will actually glue onto the shoulder of the outfit that I created. So I'm using a little bit of Velcro here. This is so I can remove the neck portion easily enough. One piece glues to the shiny side, the other piece glues to the dark side. As you can see, it kind of wraps around there. So then I just glued this portion to the shoulder piece, and this is actually all going to get covered up by this section, so it doesn't really matter what your shoulder looks like at this point. So this is some faux fur. She has a little bit of like, it's a shoulder pad type thing that looks to be kind of gold, and then she also has a strap across her chest, and it also looks like it's made out of leather. I didn't have black leather, so I painted the brown leather that I had, or faux leather, with a little bit of gold and black paint additionally, and it kind of gave the effect that I was looking for. So once this is all dried, then you can glue those two pieces together, and I just put it on my shoulder to see where it needed to rest and where it needed to be glued. Glue them together, and then this entire shoulder piece gets glued onto the top of the shoulder, and it will hide all of that mess that we just created. On the bottom of this strap though, part of the outfit is a big black belt that she wears across her waist, and I am using a belt that I normally use, so I'm actually just making it so that I can slide it in and out there. So she also has like a black Russian hat that she wears, which is just some black faux fabric here. It's faux fur, and I'm folding in both sides again for those seams, and once you have it, as long as you need it for your head, measure it around your head, and then you're going to glue those two pieces together. So that's what I'm doing here, and kind of hiding that seam by folding them in like this. There's also a little bit of a jewel or a gem on the front of it, so I found this brooch, and then I'm just gluing that into place. Pair this whole thing with some black boots and some black gloves, and you're done. So that's how I ended up with this, and honestly, some of the mistakes that I ended up making, they're not that noticeable. Like this big major mistake, you can hardly tell, and this is really easy to get in and out of because I put the Velcro here around the neck. It just slips off and you can slide out of it. So it's an easy costume to wear, and you know, surprisingly, it's holding together pretty good for the hot glue. I've had no problems with it. I've slipped this costume in and out like several times, and I haven't had any problems, so I'm not really worried about it for Halloween night, which is good. I am just worried about being cold because, well, I live in Canada. Luckily, I'll be at a house party though. If you've seen the show Glow and maybe attempt to make a different character, I'd love to see those photos. And if you attempt to be Zoya the Destroyer, please send me some photos of your costume. You can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at Janelle Steeper, and just tag me in those photos so I can check it out. Now, I have made several other Halloween costume tutorials in the past. You can find those all linked down below, and I will have another one for you next week. So subscribe so you don't miss it. Cheers.